Back, we're in Sandton today. We're talking transport issues. It is Transport Month in South Africa, and right through October, the transport arena is being brought to the fore, and all of us as citizens, as stakeholders, business, civil society, we all kind of need to come together and drive these issues forward and face our challenges collectively. Now, one of the areas that we were talking about is taxi industry, taxi drivers, and taking care of re-educating them and perhaps encouraging them to lead the way. Hlokomela Taxi Care is one program that's been designed to do quite a bit of work there. And so let's chat to somebody there, Duncan, who's in the audience, to tell us a little bit about some of the things that are being done with this initiative and successes so far. Duncan, if you could just tell us, what are you doing, and is it making a difference already?
Thanks very much, Peter. Good morning, Madam Minister, Deputy Minister. Hlokomela Taxi Care is a partnership with Sintaka, with the Hlokomela safety brand, designed specifically to monitor the behavior of taxi drivers, but allowing the public to participate in reporting on that behavior. So allowing motorists and the commuters inside the vehicles.
All right. Duncan, I'm going to ask you to sit down for a couple of seconds because your microphone is not working for some reason, but they're going to get another one to you. In the meantime, we'll carry on with our conversation. Minister, Deputy Minister, have you seen the fruits of Hlokomela already?
Like I've said, that there are benefits, but they are going to take some time. We are working together with the taxi industry and to convene a platform for debate and discussion with regard to some aspects that we believe has not yet been a success. Like, for example, government has increased the taxi scrapping allowance to about 70,000 rand per vehicle. But the uptake is not at the level at which it should be. And Hlokomela is part of that initiative. So we're saying that people don't want to part with vehicles. We heard a very interesting story now the other day, that people actually believe that the taxi that gave birth to his business is like Inyanya industry. So they don't want to scrap that vehicle. They'd rather get a new vehicle but continue running with that vehicle. And these are the things that we still need to be engaging our industry on. But also, you'd remember that the people who are the drivers of the vehicles are not necessarily the operators. The operators are the owners. And the attitude must also change from the owner side, so that they should not just be driving profits and be pushing the taxi drivers. One of the taxi drivers informed us in one of the taxi ranks that we visited that, look, we can do the correct things, but if you do the correct things, you don't deliver the profits the operator expects in a day. The next morning you go and fetch the vehicle, you find that the vehicle that you were driving yesterday passes you on the road because they have acquired a new driver. So it is important that we professionalize the drivers themselves and be able to make sure that they are recognized. And that is why we believe that in working together with the industry, in unifying the industry, we will move towards making it possible that it can be better regulated and we can be able to introduce subsidies. And in introducing those subsidies, because taxis, Peter, carry 69% of the people who commute daily on our roads. 15.6 million people, it's not a small number. So it is an important stakeholder in the transport sector, and it will always be an important sector, even if we can improve on other modes. So it is important that we professionalize it and make sure that the drivers and the operators understand their responsibility and recognize that there are laws in this country, there are regulations that they must comply with.
All right, talking about scrapping vehicles, how far are we with the recapitalization program, Deputy Minister?
I think we did make some progress in as far as that is concerned. And as we're implementing the program, we did learn some lessons. The very fact that we're going to ask the owner of the taxi to bring that old taxi for scrapping But of course, you give whatever amount of money, 17,000 now, yet the bank wants a deposit that is much higher than that. It becomes a problem. And therefore, it makes the the owners of taxis reluctant to scrap those taxis because many of them are paid up. So there are lessons that we have learned, and we are engaging the taxi industry so that we can probably come up with a much better solution to the whole issue. But we continue to do that. I think there are quite a number of taxis that have been scrapped, about 53,000 plus that have been scrapped. But of course, the process is not as fast as we would want it to be. But I think we're making some.
There have been some concerns raised that drivers are saying that they're not getting permits for their new vehicles. Are you aware of that?
The issue of permits, and I'm sure MECs are here. I've seen the MEC of the Free State, Mpumalanga, and Northwest are here, Northern Cape, as well as Limpopo. The issue of the permits were predominantly a challenge for Gauteng, and we've been working together with the Gauteng government to resolve that particular issue. In other provinces, they've been able to deal with that. But you'd remember also, Peter, we used to have what was called the cross-boundary municipalities. So you'd find that at the time of the disestablishment of the cross-boundary municipalities, there are people who held permits from the provinces which they used to belong to. And in the transitional period, I think there was a lack in terms of making sure that the permitting authorities can accelerate the conversion of those permits to the province that the people have been reallocated to. So that matter has been addressed. But I would also believe that supporting the taxi industry would be the efficient metro rail services in our metros. And I'm sure you would know that last year in October, President Zuma launched the Bridge City multimodal facility in KZN, which indicates that at the point or at a facility like the station, the connection to the buses, the connection to the taxis and other services, and how you actually make sure that that particular mode interconnect to even the aviation sector, which is the airlines. And I would want to say, if you have visited the new revamped Park Station here in Johannesburg, you would have realized how the multimodal system would operate once it is rolled out to many parts of the country. There is a total big initiative with the revamping of the Cape Town station as well as the Durban station, so as to make sure that we create those particular initiatives. But also the Deputy Minister spoke to the other modes that we are responsible for. President Zuma, through first Operation Pakisa initiative, he launched a Lab 1, which focuses in making it possible for South Africa to benefit from the more than 3,000 kilometers of coastline that we have, in making it possible.
Shall we do this? Let's explore that a little bit further, because I just want to finish the taxi arena now. And we've spent quite a bit of time on it, but I guess because 69% of our people are on our taxis. So let's just get our final word from Duncan, and then we'll move on to the other arenas. Duncan, if you're ready, let's just hear what you were going to share with us earlier.
Thanks very much, Peter. Good morning, Madam Minister and Madam Deputy Minister. Tlokomela Taxi Care is Santaco's program, National Road Safety Program, where they're putting their hands up and saying we are taking accountability within our industry to make the roads safer. It allows motorists and commuters to report on the behavior of the taxi drivers, positive and negative. It must be remembered that we look for compliments with taxi driver behavior as well as the complaints. So the question, I suppose, for the Minister would be, in conjunction with the Department of Transport, how can we take Tlokomela Taxi Care to the next level in road safety in South Africa? Thank you.
Okay. All right, so that's a question that he's raised as well. How do we take it to the next level?
I said I'm here with MECs, MEC Shongwe and MEC of the Free State, and MEC Mulapisi can answer that question.
Where's MEC Shongwe?
And MEC Vadi is the back there.
Let's start with MEC Shongwe. Where are you, sir? If you could just stand up, we'll get a microphone to you. Okay. And MEC Khompela, you're around as well? Okay. Can we get the microphones here, please, at the front? Where are the microphones? Oh, there we go. The front here, middle table, front. There we go. At the front here, here. There we go. Okay, if you could just stand up and identify yourself, sir.
Thank you very much, Peter, Minister, Deputy Minister, and my colleagues and everybody else and all the stakeholders. I'm Vusi Shonga from Mpumalanga, MEC for Community Safety, Security and Liaison. We are working hand in hand with taxi industry in our province. Your structures and everybody else, the president is here, Mr. Taibos can attest to that. We make sure that with the MEC for Public Works, Roads and Transport, we have a plan to audit all in Mpumalanga the permits, the transport permit of the taxis, basically because we have discovered that some of the taxi permits are duplicated and they create problem for taxi industry. And as such, you will remember that as an MEC for Community Safety, Security, Liaison, working with police, when there are taxi conflicts between the two associations over the route, we are also involved in making sure that we mediate between those particular disputes. But in a nutshell, we also work hand in hand with the program of the taxi industry. Hlokomela, we make sure that we encompass it as the provincial government in making sure that at the end of the day it is realized. And I'm very happy that the minister is very much passionate with the deputy minister insofar as taxi industry is concerned, precisely because of the recap. I think the minister and the deputy minister in the transport department as such are going to intensify in making sure that they revisit that particular program in making sure that at the end of the day, what it was planned for, it is realized. Thank you very much.
MEC Companion.
Hey, thank you very much, Mr. Ndoro, and the minister and the deputy minister. Thank you very much. We have contributed not very much on the taxi industry. We have two big public transport in the Free State, the buses, which is Maluti Bus Services and the Itumele Bus Services. Both of them, they have been transformed. We have taken the option of negotiations because the tender option would have never given advantage to taxi people to have a stake there. Therefore, we have taken the negotiation models, and the taxi people in the Free State own 65% of the Maluti bus services, and the workers there, including the original owner. So we're moving up now to the Itumele bus service. Also, we are doing very well there. The taxis are having the stake, and the minister is now opening up the rail from Kimberley to Lesotho, and in that rail too, taxi people in the province are not going to watch the train passing there. They don't have any stake there, including our own the BRT in the province. Taxis are not just bicycles there, so that when we bring them together in the stake, we are making them to have more discipline, a better culture of business ethos. The other thing is that we have contributed about 10 cars, new cars, to the taxi industry in the Free State, so that they must run this operation Hlokomela together with us, because when we are on the road, they are there, so that if somebody is driving a car with a vice grip, so that they must see why are we taking the car out of the road. So many times they can see that there is a vice grip instead of a steering wheel, and they can see that the car has got tomatoes, not the wheels. So when we're taking that car out of the road, and they testify and say, yes, MEC, we can see that this is not a car, but something that we can take to the graveyard. Thank you very much.
All right, okay. I think let's start. We're going to hear from the other MECs during the course of the conversation, because I think it's important to get what's happening on our provincial governments with this, particularly in Transport Month. But I also want to include you in this conversation. And if we could go to table 22, John Clark. What is your thoughts today?
Honourable Minister, welcome to Gauteng, and it's good that we can at last have an interaction about the big sort of elephant in the room that concerns us all, and that's e-tolling. I just wanted to ask you, as a fellow social worker, I couldn't agree more with you about everything else you've said about the need for proper road safety, for proper policing, for dealing with drunken drivers. I've seen, like you have as a sure professionally, seen so many tragedies caused by violation of the law and by traffic accidents, etc. What really seems contradictory is that David Makura, the provincial MEC, provincial premier, has set up a review process on e-tolls to try and get to grips with what really is proving to be a fiasco. And we're really concerned that you seem to have poured cold water all over it by actually just saying that it really has no authority and power. And I would like you to just explain yourself, perhaps for those of us in Gauteng, so that we can get on board alongside the Department of Transport with the many big challenges you face, particularly, and if I must say again as a fellow social worker, the way in which the authority of the state is being delegitimized by the artificial criminalizing of people who don't pay their e-tolls for a range of reasons. And that concerns me most of all, is that we need our law and order authorities to be respected, to be feared where necessary, and not to be treated with contempt and disregard. And I'm really concerned that there is an undermining of the legitimacy of the state by the way in which Sanral, I'm afraid, has gone about this thing. And David Makura is helping us try and get to grips with that problem, and we are not sure why the National Department of Transport doesn't seem to be supportive of it.
Okay. Minister?
I don't know. John says there's an elephant in the room, and he wants to reduce the transport, 4 modes, and the infrastructure supporting that and equate it to the 201 kilometers of road surface or a network that has been told in Gauteng. I just want to repeat what I've said several times. The Premier of Gauteng established a review panel to do socio-economic impact studies of the Gauteng Freeway Improvement Project, which speaks to the Gautrain, including the feeder buses. It speaks to the alternative roads, including the 201 kilometers of road that has been tolled. But it also speaks to the benefit, whether there has been any benefits in terms of decongesting the freeways and all those particular type of things. That was the indications when I listened to the Premier making that pronouncement in Parliament when he was in the legislature, when he was addressing the legislature. He established the panel, and the panel is doing the work that they have been doing. The issue is that panel's report is not my report. It is not the Department of Transport National's report, because we did not constitute a panel to review any policy. The user pay principle is a policy of South Africa, and many of us, including Mr. John Clark, have said that we support and agree with the National Development Plan. The National Development Plan is very specific, that on the back of the balance sheet of the state-owned companies like Sanral, we will go and get money from markets to make sure that we accelerate infrastructure development. And the user pay principle is not a new thing. You'd remember in 1995, our late first president of the Republic of South Africa, President Mandela, launched what we called Masakane campaign. And he was very clear that the users of services and infrastructure must be able to pay for it so that it doesn't become obsolete. We're talking here about 750,000 kilometers of road surface in South Africa, 3,000 kilometers is tolled with the concessions, you know, the N3 as well as the N1 from Cape Town and the N2 and many other parts, the Bakwena route. Those tolling has been there since the 80s. And we have been maintaining through these concessions those roads. So we're talking about this 201 kilometers that Mr. John Clark is speaking about. And I would want to say that it is very important that you realize the challenges that we have in South Africa. I spoke earlier on about the children of Msinga. I spoke now the other day about the challenges of communities in South Africa that don't even have a footpath. We were in the Eastern Cape where communities were telling us that they have to remove coffins from a hearse to be able to go and bury their loved ones. And for me, as the National Minister of Transport, I've got a responsibility to make sure that those rural masses that don't have access to transport to be able to get the basic services, like for example, health. Women today die waiting for an ambulance when that woman is going to be delivering a baby. Is that what we want to see happening in South Africa? We can't continue exacerbating a situation where we've got a country of two nations, one poor and well off, and another one forgotten and having challenges, especially our rural communities. We've got 9 provinces in South Africa, and these 9 provinces have got a responsibility to make sure that they provide the necessary infrastructure. One of the key things that you don't realize is that how much do we subsidize as government the Gautrain? Today we have got Gautrain buses that are virtually running empty in most instances, and people were supposed to be getting into those buses so that they can get to the station. And then we're told that there's congestion at the station of the Gautrain, there's no space for parking. Tomorrow we'll be told to build more parking bays at the Gautrain stations, and yet there are feeder buses that are being subsidized. And I just want to say, when we talk about these things, we must take them all in context. The 53 billion rand PRASA investment in Metro Rail is one of the initiatives that is also going to contribute to reducing the congestion on our roads. So we are saying that this cannot be the elephant. The big elephant in the room is infrastructure funding. The funding model for road infrastructure as well as transport infrastructure in South Africa. The big elephant is also transport pricing. That is the big debate that we need to start as South Africa, to be able to say how much should it cost an individual from the different layers and classes that we have in South Africa to be able to get access to their different socio-economic platforms.
Okay, let's just get some clarity then. First question, is e-toll going to stay?
I'm not talking about e-toll. I'm talking about the user pay principle. And the user pay principle is not just a transport issue. It is a funding model for infrastructure. And this was the beginning. And like we said many times, that we also as national, we're doing different reviews. And we have been doing the reviews about e-tolls since the implementation. And that is why, remember in March, we introduced, after the president even made a call to us to look at the issue of the billing system. The president was specific. He said, in South Africa, people don't get paid weekly. So if you specify 7 days for people to pay, it is a bit too tight. And that is why we moved to 51 days.
The argument really is not so much that we shouldn't pay for it as citizens, but that you've got many things that you need to pay for. Wouldn't it be better to use a cheaper system to collect, such as a fuel levy, which is being suggested, and that would free you to use the savings to build those footpaths and so on and so forth? I think that's the argument that most people are having through. Is there no merit in saying let's use a cheaper system to collect this money?
I think at another time we need to debate this issue of the fuel levy. And we need to bring in National Treasury to the fold. Because if you speak about a provincial levy, it is not something that has not been tried. and the Deputy Minister would tell you she was part of the processes at the time, it was tested and it was found that it is not going to be able to apply in this particular instance. Primarily because you'd find people who travel from many parts of the continent, but many parts of South Africa, who travel also on these 201 kilometers of road network. But also, the fuel levy, you'd remember, we use from our transport side, the 86% that SANRAL is getting from the fiscus, and only 14% is from the user pay principle, and as well as the road accident fund, which is being funded from the fuel levy. And there are all those things that we need to be also considering. Are we saying we need to do away with the road accident fund so as to build roads in South Africa? This is a bigger debate that is not just going to be confined to transport. But also, there was somebody now the other day who said the vehicles in Gauteng are more than other parts of the country. You know, the other thing that we need to realize is that the very province that that person was talking about, the Northern Cape, where today it carries the bulk of the manganese and iron ore that is being mined in the world and being shipped out to be able to create the necessary economic growth that we want, and to make sure that we can be able to get the revenue so as to support the other initiatives of government, comes from those very poor communities. If you look at what is happening in those communities, there are those big GP cars driving in that part of the Northern Cape where there's hardly a road. People who go and make their money there in that part of the country, in Limpopo, in the Free State, in Northwest, but declare their taxes in Gauteng. And then people tell you that the economic hub and the economic, the tax base of South Africa is in Gauteng, like the type of statements that was made by one corner now the other day.
Minister,
so I just want to say to you, there is no big elephant in the room called Eat All. The big elephant is infrastructure funding, and we need to get that one right.
So one of the things that you have to face, though, is that the people are saying no. They're not complying. And what you are then doing, I think what Mr. Clark pointed out, is that you're creating criminals. Because people, by not paying, are criminally liable, aren't they? Isn't that kind of the scenario that's playing out? What do we do with the non-compliance? Because people don't want to do this. What are you going to do with it?
I said that every period, in the first instance, was the grace period we gave in March for those who had particular challenges. And based on the President's call, we gave them the grace period till July. And in July, we also worked on looking at, because this is a new thing, it is hardly a year old, let us look at whether there are other options that we can consider. And we introduced the discounts and making sure that people who've got no tag can pay. If they pay within the 51 days instead of 7 days, they can then be able to pay a minus 60% discount. But also those who've got tax, you know, you've got the 450 cap, you've got a 48% a discount, which makes it even easier. And the statistics indicate that no one has actually went above 450 rand. And I want to say, we want to create a platform, or not a platform, a mechanism to engage with the people who say they have got challenges. We also, myself and the Deputy Minister, can tell you how we had challenges in the beginning, like any new thing. And we managed to make sure that we understand how the system works.
What if they refuse to comply still? What if they refuse to comply still?
We will deal with the situation when it arises. But for now, we know there are people who are paying and the people of South Africa.
I'm a brown bone, I'm a black bone. And who minded and Fulel, Minapela Nazal and I'm a DJ. Who's paying no names? Who's Okali, Kupe
Zoom into Africa. This is Zambia. The president is Mr. Michael Sata. Zambia got independent from United Kingdom on 24th October in 1964. The population is more than 13 million people. One of the major languages spoken is English. Monetary unit is the kwacha.
Those. Yes, there have been some technical issues in terms of the billing system and that. And we are resolving it, and most of those issues have been resolved. But the accuracy of the system is not in question. We are recording it properly in terms of the vehicles which are going underneath the gantries. The issue has always been coming in terms of the databases which have been available for us to be able to follow through. And that is why we've always said thank you, and we again make an appeal to the people to register, and also to make sure that the information on our e-natus system is up to date. And the other fact of the matter is that the number of people that we have identified now, and we are working with our law enforcement agencies in taking off illegal roads, illegal vehicles on our roads, so that we can make our roads also safer. Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you very much indeed. All right, so we're talking transport in general, lots of issues. I'm going to go in between the tables and some of the big issues here, but okay, don't worry, it's not an earthquake, it's just, okay. Let's go to table number 7, Poppy Skosana. And I think this is an issue that is something that is worrying a lot of people. So Poppy Skosana, table number 7. If we can get to Poppy Skosana, table number 7.
Oh, my name. I don't. I'm not even ashamed of it. Ikamala.
All right. Can we stand so we can see her? Okay.
Igama lami nguPoppy Skosana from Sunwit.
Okay, we've got the camera on her. Okay, you can speak. Yeah, we've got you on camera now. You can carry on.
My name is Poppy Skosana from Sunwit. Ngithi angiqale ngibonge ko-Deputy Minister wethu ngokuthi abe khona la kule event, kodwa siyabonga ngoba isikhathi esiningi sibana kuma-events amaningi. 2, ngibonge noLucky Montana wePraza ngomsebenzi wakho osinikezile abomama ukuthi sikline iteshi beclean. Ngiyimpumputhe nje namhlanje ngangisebenza mina kwi-Road Transport Board la eJohannesburg. Ngisebenze from 1987 late until ngaze ngathola accident. But before ngithola accident, good transportation board sisebenza as consultants savalwa ukuthi asisafuneki ngenxa ye fraud ekhona. So uma kuthiwa kune fraud ekhona, angeke sithi singama consultants over 50 si fraud sonke. Bayamazi umuntu ofraudile abambophe, abazange bambophe. Umuntu mayegangile udinga ukuboshwa, azange aboshwe. Kodwa samiswa thina sonke ukuthi umsebenzi weboard sikhulise abantwana bethu, safundisa abantwana bethu, sasebenza saba ngomama. Namhlanje sikhulile counter from 1987 until now. Uthi ngakanani mina? I'm 64 years now. Sivaliwe, sicela ibhodi ivule sisebenze futhi. Vulele nabanye abangakwazi ukusebenza bakhona ukuthola umsebenzi, basebenze bondla abantwana babo. Ngoba indlala ibhokile la ngemuva. I think it's a specific matter. Ngithe ngithola i-accident too. Mangithola i-accident ngisesibhedlela eNatalspruit Hospital. Mina angizange ngiyithole imali RAF ngoba kunobutsotsi yonke indawo. esibhedlela mase ngifuna ifile yami it was clean bengekho ngumuntu ongazange wazwalala umuntu ongazange wazwalimala umuntu ongekho nje kuze kube manje kuza kanjani why kanti amafile lahlala la kunjani kwenzakalani ngeibhedlela ngiyabonga.
All right, okay, thank you very much indeed, Mam Skosan. All right, so a number of issues that she's raised. The first one, I think, Prasa, we're going to get to you as well. The program that's helping benefit women in the industry. She's talking about fraud taking place and the concerns that she has, and that you need to be serious about rooting out fraud and corruption, and that also creating employment opportunities as well. She's very concerned about that. And also, I think the Road Accident Fund not paying out. She was blinded herself in a road accident, and that she's concerned about that. So if you could just comment briefly on what she's mentioned.
I think Eugene is here from the Road Accident Fund, and Lucky Montana is also here from Prasa. But I just want to understand, because she was speaking about a board. So I don't understand which board she was talking about that she used to work for that needs to be reopened so that she can be able to work. Maybe MEC Vadi does have knowledge of the issues related to that particular matter she's raising.
Okay.
I think the two are here.
All right. Well, let's start with Mr. Montana and just talk a little bit about Prasa in general, because I think that you're really at the forefront of some of our transport development, and if you could stand, Mr. Montana. There we go. The microphone is with you. So congratulations are in order for the work you're doing in benefiting women. But if you could just tell us also the future when we deal with Prasa and you're dealing with our public.
Well, thanks very much. Good morning, Honorable Minister, Deputy Minister. MECs, I think the bigger, I won't say an elephant, of course. The bigger issue, of course, is public transport. And I think that the Minister of Transport has put at the center of public transport the need to transform metro rail services. As you know, that we are not only doing that because of the problems of the past, but also because of future challenges, particularly the growth in our cities, the changing nature of our cities, will present problems. And I think as South Africans, the Minister emphasized the issue of infrastructure. If we want to have our cities working, we have to solve the transport infrastructure, we have to solve the problems of water infrastructure, we have to solve energy, as well as all of those issues, I think, are challenges for us. And for us, getting Metro Rail to work, I think, is an important issue. We have a lot of support from government, particularly with the 53 billion rand program to acquire new trains. I think we'll bring the first of those trains next year. So that will be a catalyst for transformation of public transport. And we say this will be a modern train for all the people of South Africa, and it will be affordable. That's the most important thing. Nazir, in his response, didn't emphasize, when we deal with this elephant, that in fact, when you analyze Gauteng, 2/3 of households do not have access to a car. They rely on rail, bus, or taxi. So some of the debates we're having, Honorable Minister, are really misplaced, because we talk about a view for a small minority of people. Public policy should be shaped on the basis of the needs of the majority. And in Gauteng, you can see that the first major priority for us to address the challenges of a city region, of a greater integrating province, of maintaining the competitiveness of Gauteng, is clearly to make sure that we get public transport, we move both people and goods efficiently. And if we allow the growth of cars at an average of 8 or 10% per year, we are going to lose Gauteng as the most competitive thing. So I think, Honorable Minister, you have our support that we are not forced to adopt irresponsible and wrong policies, because we are going to compromise the very competitiveness of our own economy. So our rail solution is part of that. And I think that we are not only buying new trains, which I think the Minister spoke about, the R1 billion facility that will build in the East Rand to build these trains. trained 19,500 people out of that. But what this program has also done, it has enabled us to prepare the infrastructure to receive those new trains. So by the time the first train is introduced, the signaling system, the depots, the tracks themselves should be ready for that. And I think, Honorable Minister, once again, other than the 53 billion rands that you had already supported us on, we have been given 40.2 billion rands in the next 3 years to prepare the infrastructure for the new trains. Now, finally, the issue of the women in rail, we realize that we've had a number of companies, and in the past, women-owned enterprises, black women, have come into this space. Some of them, they've been manufacturing or rather refurbishing trains, but that has not been significant. So we decided that we set aside R1 billion. And Minister, let me emphasize, the R1 billion is a special program. Women are still involved in other part of PRASA's work. So there are 3 areas of emphasis. The first one is rail engineering. That's where PRASA spent, like Transnet, the bulk of its own money. So we think that that's where we should be positioning women-owned enterprises. And we are pleased that we have seen some of the bigger companies that are coming out. They are owned by women. Secondly, is on professional services. We do a lot of work, particularly on the design of infrastructure. And we realize that women-owned enterprises are not participating in that space. And finally, of course, is a property space. We own a lot of stations and land and in the development. And some of the best stations that the minister spoke about, I must say, Minister, like Orlando Station was built by women, and the quality has been good. It's done within budget, and I think that the safety features of those, so that care has been there. So I think it's a program we are going to run for the next 5 years, and will create the foundation for a modern transport system in the country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr.
The next step, Peter, is to make sure that the Women in Rail program has a national footprint.
Right.
Remember, we said that we've got 9 provinces.
Yes.
Let the women in KZN, Western Cape, as well as other provinces also get a benefit from this particular initiative.
All right.
But it is a good initiative, and we believe it is not only that, overall, women must have access, PRASA.
Okay. All right, let's just get a quick comment from Road Accident Fund. Some of the concerns that people are raising. If you could just identify yourself, and then we'll spend the rest of the time getting to your questions on the floor.
Morning, Minister, Deputy Minister. I'm Eugene Watson, the CEO of the RAF. I can't make another comment about an elephant. I think Lucky's stolen the deal. Our business as the Road Accident Fund is basically to help people who've been affected by car crashes. We come in afterwards. So if the discussion for today centers around infrastructure, our business comes in as a consequence of the use of or the quality of that infrastructure. In the last year, the RAF has paid 22 billion rand in claims, much like from the woman who asked the question. The reality, however, is that we have a legacy of fraud. There is a substantial of money being dealt with. Before claims are generated and submitted to the fund, they are, however, subject to the intervention irregularly of touts and other forms of criminals. We take it seriously. In the last year, we've arrested over 500 people for doing similar things to what has just been described in the question. So what we would ask you, your viewers, and those guests who are with us today is to join us in ensuring that we continue to transform the RAF to deliver the services we're required to do and not to waste money.
All right. Talk a little bit about the backlog, if it exists, and how quickly can people expect to have their claim settled?
Thanks. If you look carefully over the last 2 years, we've reduced the backlog to below 200,000 open claims, which is almost current when you consider we get 147,000 new claims each year. 5 years ago, that number was almost 500,000. So you basically have at least 300,000 citizens and claimants who have been assisted in the last few years as we continue to improve our productivity. And I'm pleased to say, because it's October Transport Month, that we've done so whilst getting a clean audit, which speaks to some of the governance measures in team transport and the fraternity you see today. Thanks.
Okay, all right, thank you very much indeed. All right, I'm going to ask 4 people to stand up and just ask their questions very briefly, and we'll get a response, and then ask another 4. Let's try and get through as many of these as possible. Starting at table number 8, Bradley Verana. Bradley Verana, table number 8. If you could ask your question, and I'll get to the next person. Let's get 4 in a row and then get some responses. Bradley, where are you? Okay, all right. Very briefly there, Bradley.
Morning, Minister, Deputy Minister. I'm Bradley Verana. My question is, what has been done with the funds received from the fuel levies that all motorists pay in terms of road maintenance with regards to South African roads? Thank you.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Bradley. The next question from Ranana. Is it Rantau? Yeah, Ranana Rantau, table 14.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Minister and Deputy Minister. My name is Ranona Rantau. I'm working for a company called Northwest Transport Investment. My question for today is DORA, Division of Revenue Act. The annual increase on the Division of Revenue Act, it's almost annually predetermined, and it's always less than 5% and less, whereas the running costs are more than that. Will we get any situation where this will be addressed? Can I ask the second question very short? The other one, it's we are operating mainly in the north of Gauteng on interim contracts, which has been interim contracts since 1997. Will we get a stage where these would be turned into real contracts or negotiated contracts? Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much indeed. Let's go to Simon, table 32. Yours is a quick question. Simon, table 32. Simon, table 32. All right, where is Simon? Simon, are you here? Table 32? If you could stand up and we'll get a microphone to you. Okay. All right, Simon, table 32, please stand. Have we found him?
Sorry, there's no Simon in this table.
Okay, all right. There's someone who's asking about, or maybe it's an anonymous. When is the department going to appoint the DG and other vacant DDG posts? So Simon is an anonymous person. Okay, all right. I believe the president of Santaco is here, Philip Tybosh. Mr. Tybosh, if you're here, there's a question that's coming through Twitter at the moment, and maybe you can answer that. There's so many associations and so many taxi groupings. Is there one way to put them all under one roof? There's just too many associations. This is what a tweet that has come through.
Peter, thank you very much. And good morning, Minister and Deputy Minister. But firstly, let me indicate, and I don't think I should be apologetic when it comes to this one, that it seems as if there is an orchestrated intentions from both the SABC and government to undermine the taxi industry. And I'm saying this because I want you to understand that the taxi industry is a very serious stakeholder in this country. Maybe through demonstration one day, Minister, maybe the president of the taxi industry in South Africa needs to be tested whether we cannot bring it seriously to the intention of government that the taxi industry exists in this country not by chance. And we are not created by opportunities which came in 1994. We were created because the previous government caused it for African people not to have a mode of transport in this country. And I want to agree with MEC Kompela that whatever drop of funding is coming to the taxi industry,
it's just a little drop. It's not what is supposed to be given to an industry which is transporting the majority of South Africans by choice. Not because we want to force them to use the taxis. By choice, people are using the taxi industry, and I think the statistics speaks to that. Let me come to the issues which were raised this morning. Firstly, the issue of the taxi recapitalization program. I think the minister is right, and the deputy minister, that we are talking on that. We want to innovate that program, in particularly going back to the initiations of the program itself, because government, not the taxi industry, government has deviated completely from that particular program. And I must indicate that we regard that government had an intention of killing this taxi industry, and we are not going to allow that to happen. Secondly, let me speak to the issues
if you could be quite quick.
I knew that it was going to happen.
Yeah.
Because I requested this before. I knew that it was going to happen. Let me talk to the issue of Hlokomela. And I think the minister has indicated that very well. Hlokomela, what we are doing now, it's an innovation to what we started in 2010. And if you look into that, go to the results, you'll see that the taxi accidents and crashes have gone tremendously down because of the response which is coming from the taxi drivers, the taxi operators. Even our commuters are beginning to understand that they must now begin to wake up in time so that they can get in time to their different work. So we are appealing, Minister, that please, when you are implementing changes in the country, don't call us as if maybe we don't have anything to do somewhere else. Like your IRPTNs, your municipalities are working, bringing in innovations. And at the time when they wish to blame the taxi industry, they will say the taxi industry was not involved, has been involved. And I'm referring to what is happening with the implementations of the BRTs in various sectors.
All right.
Thank
I'm
you.
going to get a response now for all the questions and the issues that we've been raised. If you could just alternate between the two of you, and let's just deal with all the comments that have been made. All right. But as quickly as you can.
Let me start at the point left off by Ndate Daibosh, the president of Santako. There is no intention, and there's never been an intention to destroy the taxi industry. There is an acknowledgement that the taxi industry carries 69% of those of our people who commute daily. 15.6 million people use taxis. And this is an industry that contributes more than 40 billion rand annually to the economy. It creates more than 300,000 jobs, direct, and 600,000 indirectly. What we would want to do now is to make sure that we regulate and make sure that the issues he raised about the support directly from government in terms of possible subsidies and all those, it can only happen in a regulated environment. And that is why we're working together. But I also want to say that they have done a lot, including the Wi-Fi that they have introduced, the customer care services that they are introducing. So the taxi industry will be part of us for a very long time. In fact, as part of the public transport plan that we're working on finalizing this period, it actually includes the taxi industry in it.
All right.
The Deputy Minister will respond to the question about the DG issue. And
fuel levy.
I'll respond. You know, people tend to forget that there is a program that started by President Zuma in 2011 called Samba Sonke. This Samba Sonke program is the one that is governed by the Division of Revenue Act. And the gentleman who was speaking about the percentages related to the the DORA, I just want to reassure you to say the National Treasury is working on this particular issue, and myself and the Deputy Minister is actually late for a meeting that is actually dealing with the budget as we speak, because we need to also go and put in a little bit of our own into the areas that need strengthening within the transport sector. With regard to the issues of the interim contracts, I would believe that the best placed person to respond to that would be the MEC of Gauteng, and I hope he'll be able to get that opportunity. But we spent, if I have to go back to an amount of money we spent on Samba Song, 9.6 billion rand distributed across the 9 provinces to make sure that we can maintain and operate the limited kilometers of roads that we have, lest they deteriorate. We have already launched, you would remember, in July in Northwest, what we call Operation Zelanke, which is intended to make sure that we continue closing the potholes. In the last 20 years, we have closed more than 80.
Okay. I'm going to have to jump in because time is not on our side, and we need to answer those other 2 questions. There's the fuel levy and the other question about the appointments.
The road accident fund is funded through the fuel levy. And you will understand the fact that it fluctuates because it depends on the number of people that purchase fuel. If the number is low, maybe because the cost is going high, then of course it means we collect less. This, I want to believe, will also have impact on the question of the fuel levy used to toll, or in fact to fund our road network. So we transfer 15 billion rand to road accident fund, which is collected from the fuel levy. And they spend 1.5 billion rand per month, in fact per month, to pay the victims of road accidents, which is a lot of money. Then of course, coming to the appointment of the DG, and of course the DDG, surely the person who asked the question must have seen an advert, because we're in the process of appointing the DG. It was advertised, people applied, and we are in the process of finalizing that. So yes, we are taking that very seriously. We can't have such a strategic position being vacant for a longer time.
All right, okay. Very quickly, table 15, T.A. Mokoena. Table 15, T.A. Mokoena. All right, I do know that the South African Maritime Association is here. I wish we had more time, would have loved to really explore the blue economy and what's happening in that arena, but we thank you for being here with us today. And I know that AXA is here. They've celebrated a significant birthday recently as well, so we thank you for being here as well. So T.A. Mokoena, if you could be very quick with your question.
Honourable Minister and Deputy Minister, thank you for being part of this gathering.
Lift your microphone, yeah.
Honourable Minister and Deputy Minister, we thank you for inviting us to this occasion. I have got 2 brief and very humble questions that is pertaining to cross-border operational impasse between the Republic of South Africa and the Kingdom of Lesotho on the passenger transport. South Africa is a signatory to the SACU MOU and the SADC protocol that has been signed between the Republic of South Africa and the neighboring countries. The cross-border operations are happening between the rest of the countries in the region, except between Lesotho and South Africa.
All right.
Now, our question would be...
I can't hear you. You. Put your microphone up. So your question is about, are we honoring regional agreements?
That's right.
All right. Okay. Unfortunately, we don't have time, so we're going to have to just get a quick answer for that. Regional agreements that have been signed in with our regional countries.
We do honor the regional agreements, and in fact, with regard to the matter he's raising about Lesotho, we've been engaging with the minister from Lesotho, and including the fact that now the other day, the issues raised by MEC Butana Nkombela, including the infrastructure development, the N8, the reason why it has been revamped in the way it has been revamped, it actually facilitates the movement of people to Lesotho. But we are addressing the issue of the conflict within the taxi industry between Lesotho
right.
and South Africa. That
I'm
is a
being told
long...
that we have to wrap now, unfortunately, but I think that you've got the answer there, that you are dealing with the issue. But ladies and gentlemen, on your behalf, I'd just like to say thank you very much indeed for the Minister of Transport, Minister Dipuo Peters, and the Deputy Minister of Transport, Deputy Minister Sindisiwe Chikunga. Thank you very much indeed, and we wish you the best of luck with Transport Month. And you at home, get involved, don't just talk about it, do what you